not much media give attention, Chandrayaan, Aditya, and we are proud that some of our young scientists from Assam and who studied in Assam are involved in this. We will be having this. My political editor, Nayan Pratim Kumar, will be the moderator of this session. I need 2 minutes to handle this dais. I know it's getting late. Sorry for that. The great fight of three ladies took away some of our time. You all enjoyed it, gave some lot of claps, but equally, this session is also important. I want the value of science to inculcate into the young minds. I will advise the crew to rearrange. I will be now giving a small introduction of my panelists one by one before I invite them to the stage so that it can save some of the time. The first one is Janmejio Sarkar, a senior research fellow at I.U.c and a visiting research fellow at ISRO, specializes in the Solar Ultraviolet Imaging Telescope or SWIT project. His expertise includes optomechanics, clean room procedure, optimal alignment, image analysis, interferometry, UV spectroscopy. Forgive me, they are too scientific for my non-scientific brain, and Python programming. He is vital to developing SWIT, a key instrument for India's solar observatory, Aditya L1, and position at Sun Art Language 1. The next is Dr. Aishanya Sharma, as an assistant professor of Bahana College, Assam, since December 2020. She is also joint lead investigator for a science objective on SWIT aboard Aditya L1, focusing on the study of sunspot wave and oscillation with SWIT. Dr. Sharma obtained her PhD from Tezu University, Assam in 2020, conducting research as a junior research fellow at I.U.c Pune within the Max Planck India Partner Group of Max Planck Institute for Solar System Research, Germany. Her thesis explored the coupling of the solar atmosphere through MHD waves. The third one is Dr. Sarag Saikia. I just met him, a Lakhimpur native, holds a master's degree and PhD in astronautics from Purdue University, USA. He returned to India and founded the spacefaring technology, specializing in advanced space and homeland security technology. Dr. Saikia, M.D. and Chief Technologist, has worked closely with Indian Armed Forces in extreme high-altitude regions. Spacefaring technologies leads in developing tech for India's defense forces, including systems for Tejas, MiG-29K, Sukhoi 30 MKI, radomes, and stratospheric airborne surveillance. I'm too proud to have such a distinguished fellow working in such high-tech science in our room, in our panel. And the last, forgive me if I make a mistake in pronouncing the title, Dr. Srijit Pedinatri. Sorry, apology if I have made a mistake. Don't laugh on my language. Srijit P. holds a bachelor degree in physics from Calicut University and a master's degree in physics from IIT Madras. Following his PhD, he became a postdoctoral research associate at Trinity College Dublin. In 2017, he joined Solar Ultraviolet Imaging Telescope, that is SWIT, project for Aditya L1 at the Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics, Pune. His research spanned astrophysics, solar physics, and space science through instrument development. So I can invite all of them come and do the honor. Over to Nayan Pratim Kumar, who will felicitate each of our panel. And those who are sitting on the side of this hall, come to the center and show them, beside politics and the great lady fights, we also love science. Sorry for my...
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last session of this conclave. And today, we are going to discuss about two special missions that have been ISRO. Our topic is Chandrayaan 3 and Aditya L1 mission accomplished. This is the subject matter of today's enclave. And we have with us Dr. Srijit P. He is, now he is working as a professor in Manipal Academy of Higher Education. Welcome to this show, Dr. Srijit P. Then we have Dr. Oishanya Sharma. Oishanya Sharma আমাৰ যোৰহাটৰ বাহনা মহাবিদ্যালয়ৰ তেখেত এগৰাকী অধ্যাপিকা। মই কম তেখেতসকলৰ বিষয়ে কম যে তেখেতসকলক কিয় আজি ইয়ালৈ মাতিছোঁ, আমি কম অলপ পিছত কৈ আছোঁ। তাৰ পিছত আছে ডক্টৰ হৰক শইকীয়া। হৰক শইকীয়াক এটা বিশেষভাৱে আমি আমন্ত্ৰণ কৰি আনিছোঁ। তেখেত আমেৰিকাত আছিল। আমি সকলোৱে জানো যে চন্দ্ৰত যিসকলে ভৰি থৈছিলে নীল আৰ্মষ্ট্ৰং আৰু বাজ এলড্ৰিন, আৰু এই যিগৰাকী বাজ এলড্ৰিন আছিলে তেখেতৰ সৈতে কাম কৰাৰ অভিজ্ঞতা আছে হৰক শইকীয়াৰ। গতিকে মুন মিছন আৰু সেই সম্পৰ্কে আমি কথা পাতিম। আৰু শেষত জন্মেজয় চৰকাৰ হৈছে ছিনিয়ৰ ৰিচাৰ্চ ফেলোশ্বিপ আই.ইউ.চ পুনে। আৰু এটা চিনাকি আছে, তেখেত তেজপুৰ বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ এগৰাকী ৰিচাৰ্চ ফেলো। আৰু এই যিটো আদিত্য L1 মিছন আছিলে, এই আদিত্য L1 মিছনত এখেতসকল জড়িত হৈছিলে ডাইৰেক্টলি ডক্টৰ সৃজিত, বাহনা মহাবিদ্যালয়ৰ অধ্যাপিকা ঐশ্বন্য শৰ্মা আৰু জন্মেজয় চৰকাৰ। গতিকে আই উড লাইক টু ৰিকুৱেষ্ট এভৰিৱান প্ৰেজেণ্ট হিয়াৰ to give your big hand for entire team ISRO. Thank you very much. So before I get into the main discussion, Dr. Srijit, please give your opening remarks.
Thank you, Pratidin Networks, for hosting me here. It's a great evening to be here. As he told, the big claps to Indian Space Agency, who has successfully placed, or Aditya L1 is on the way, 2 science missions in a row within few months. And in fact, though here we are discussing 2, there is a 3rd science mission which is almost ready to launch, as you might have known from their recent reports and interviews from ISRO chairman, which is to study again the stars and black holes, called Polix. It is actually ready to launch anytime. So it's very unique, I think, in the global scale itself, that in a year, in fact within 6 months gap, we are having 3 missions to study science, which is most of an academic and research interest, and of course technology, new technology, testing and development. So I think it's very unique that a country like India is becoming a major global player in the field of science and technology, achieving very unique technological gains, which in fact very few countries in the world can boast of. And especially, that is one part. The second part is, it's also very interesting being an academic person myself and a researcher. It's very happy to see that the government and the Indian Space Agency is giving so much focus to the science research, spending a lot of money in such missions which will generate a lot of enthusiasm among the young people, the young students who are in universities, colleges, and who will come to the field of science and technology research, R&D, development. And the real fruits of this, whatever we are celebrating now, might come after maybe 10 years, 15 years, when the current students who are in colleges, schools, universities start producing or doing research and start producing new results. So this investment which we see now, and there could be questions that where are the output of that? The fact of the matter is, any investment in science and technology, you will see the output after generational shift, maybe after 10 years, 15 years. And you will see that after 15 years, the community in India would have been really grown in these fields. And it's sort of exponential growth. As you see, this will contribute to further more people coming into the field. That will lead to further research. So it's like once the growth curve starts, it will keep on growing. So it's very, very happy and interesting, and I'm very thankful to the Indian Space Agency for these supports.
Dr. Osena Sharma, your opening remarks.
Hello. Thank you, Pratidin Times. Prothomone moi kom je ajir ei Conclave 2023 Pratidin Times e jitu academic session rakhile to promote and celebrate India's recent advancement in space science and technology. So tar karone dhanyabad, and thank you for inviting us. It's our pleasure being here. Aru ei khetrot kom ami recently back to back as Vijite koar dhorone dekhilu Chandrayaan 3 jitu soft landing korile for the first time for the India. It has become the first nation for soft landing in the south pole of moon. Tar pasote for the first time India Aditya L1 launch korile to the L1 point. Our India it ekhon prothom missions hoy to the L1 point. So both of us, it's a great technological achievement for us. We have seen that India has come a long way in space science and technology. গতিকে ভাল লাগিছে এনেকুৱা এটা গৌৰৱময় মুহূৰ্ত আমি সকলো সাক্ষী হ'লো আৰু আশা কৰিছো এনেকৈ যাতে আমি আৰু আগবাঢ়ি গৈ থাকিম।
ডক্টৰ হৰক শইকীয়া।
Good evening. Thanks Pratidin for this opportunity to be able to speak here regarding my work as well as to celebrate the missions. It's probably one of the finest moments in India's science and technology, as we all agree. Along with that, what I also see, because I'm also an entrepreneur and happen to be a professor back at Purdue before, I have been on both the boards before. So I think aligning investment which comes in terms of private industry in space, which the government is making, as we all know the new space policy, and all these new missions that are happening, say Aditya L1, and then we have Chandrayaan 3, and then Gaganyaan coming in. NISAR would be launched in the next few months, and all the the suite of missions that are being planned. I think you cannot ask anything better than that, particularly the students. When we did 12, and madam and everyone would say that opportunities were very few. So in that regard, I highly recommend students to take up space exploration, whatever your interests are. And then also, don't look for immediate benefits. The benefits or, the benefits of taking up space exploration or anything related to space will come much later. When we go from the country's perspective, right, there is a segment of people who always say that we have so many problems. We talk about child trafficking, we have poverty, so why do we even explore space? So if you see the charter of ISRO, we say that we want to be second to none. But if you see the recent charter of ISRO has also changed. Our future lies in space. If we don't capture it right now, we'll be left here forever.
Jamri Joy.
Firstly, thanks a lot for inviting me here. I'm very honored to be here. And secondly, I'd like to say that Aditya L1 and Chandrayaan, both of them are very challenging missions. Chandrayaan was a very challenging mission. Aditya is a very challenging mission, and we are venturing into that domain of space exploration where very few countries, very few space agencies, only 2 space agencies have been able to successfully place the satellites or place the spacecraft there. And it gives me great pleasure and also a lot of hope to see academics and students like us getting opportunities to work in such prestigious missions. And like Srijit sir said and Sakya sir said, that we are the next generation, and they have passed our course probably a couple of years back. Opportunities were not as much as what we have now, but still it's very nice to see that agencies like ISRO and I.U.c are pushing students like us forward and putting us in such critical missions and such time critical missions where the success of our country brings us in the global perspective. And I mean it's a great step not only for space exploration but also for students, that students are getting this opportunity, and the principal investigators of these projects are PhD supervisors, Professor Tripathi, Professor Ramaprakash from I.ইউ.চ and Professor Ahmed from Tejpur University, that they trusted me with this work and they gave me the opportunity to work here.
Thank
So,
you.
Yeah, that will be all.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Janmojoy. So now I would like to ask a question about Aditya L1 to Dr. Srijit. So can you tell us the present position of Aditya L1, and when is it expected to reach L1 point?
Yeah, so I think, I don't know how many of you know, the L1 point is almost like 5 times the distance from here to moon. So here to moon is almost 3 lakh kilometers, and so the distance to L1 is almost 15 lakh kilometers. And to save fuel, we are not directly going to L1 point. We made rounds around the Earth, and on a 5th burn, so 4 rounds we made, and then we are going to L1. So right now we are on the way to L1. It's called Trans L1 orbit. So it's on the way from Earth to L1, and we are expected to reach there on first week of January.
First week of January,
yeah.
right.
So I think January 6th or something is the time they have ISRO has fixed.
So let me know that why Aditya L1 will be placed on L1. Why? What's the reason behind that? Yeah, you.
Okay, so there are multiple reasons. One is L1 is a point between Sun and Earth, and as I told you, it is 15 lakh kilometers away from Earth. So if you place this, there's a speciality that, as you know, there is gravitation. So the Earth will pull things towards Earth and Sun will pull things towards Sun. So at some point, this 15 lakh kilometer, Lagrange point, both the pulls will become equal, so the gravity get cancelled. So because of that, that's a region where there is very little gravity. So it's easy to keep the satellite there. It will stay there without much fuel usage. Second point is there is nothing to hide, because like if it is moon or Earth, there will be eclipse. It will come in front of the telescope. If you keep it in L1, there is nothing in front which will hide it. Of course, there is Venus and Mercury, but that is very small. So you can see the sun 24 hours, 7 days, 365 days. Okay. So that's the reason why L1 is preferred.
Thank you. মই এতিয়া আহিছোঁ আমাৰ ডক্টৰ ঐশ্বন্য শৰ্মাৰ ওচৰলৈ। আমি জানোৱেই যে এখেতে কৈছে ইতিমধ্যে যে আদিত্য L1 গৈ আছে লক্ষ্যস্থান অভিমুখে, আৰু তাৰ পিছত এটা বিশেষ ষ্টেজ আহিব যেতিয়া তাত প্লেচ কৰা হ'ব হালো অৰবিট নামৰ এটা অৰবিট থাকিব, আৰু সেই অৰবিটটো যেতিয়া আদিত্য L1ক প্লেচ কৰা হ'ব, তাৰ পিছত এটা বিশেষ যন্ত্ৰ অথবা আমি যাক কৈছোঁ পেলোডছ, মই যিখিনি জানিব পাৰিছোঁ যে আদিত্য L1ৰ সৈতে আছে সৰ্বমুঠ 7টা পেলোডছ, আৰু তাৰে ভিতৰত যিটো চুইট নামৰ পেলোডছ আছে, সেই পেলোডছৰ সৈতে কাম কৰিছিল আমাৰ ডক্টৰ ঐশ্বন্য শৰ্মা, ডক্টৰ সৃজিত আৰু ডক্টৰ জন্মজয় চৰকাৰে কাম কৰিছিলে। মই বাইদেউৰ পৰা জানিব খুজিছোঁ যে আপোনাৰ কামটো কি হ'ব যেতিয়া প্লেচ কৰা হ'ব হালো অৰবিটত আদিত্য L1ক?
হয়, মোৰ কামটো হ'ব আপোনাৰ সূৰ্যত থকা কিছুমান MHD ৱেভছ বুলি কওঁ, কিছুমান তৰংগ, সেই তৰংগৰ অধ্যয়ন কৰা। আমি যেনেকৈ ধুনীয়াকৈ কথা কৈছোঁ, ইটছ এ চাউণ্ড ৱেভ, আপোনালোকে সকলোৱে শুনি পাইছে। চ' এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ প্ৰপাৰ্টি এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ বৈশিষ্ট্যৰে কিছুমান ৱেভ আপোনাৰ বা তৰংগ সূৰ্যটো দেখিবলৈ পোৱা যায়। আৰু সাধাৰণতে দেখা গৈছে যে এই তৰংগসমূহে আমাৰ সূৰ্যত কিছুমান ব্লাষ্ট, আমি এৰাপশ্যন হৈ থাকে অনবৰতে, আমি যিবোৰ খালী চকুৰে আমি দেখিলে সূৰ্যত এটা শান্ত হালধীয়া বল যেন লাগে, বাট ইটছ নট লাইক ডেট। আমি স্পেচত যদি যাওঁ আৰু সূৰ্যৰ ইমেজিং জাষ্ট ফটো লওঁ, UV লাইটত, যেনেকৈ আমি এক্সৰে কৰোঁ বেলেগ লাইটত, UVত যদি আমি কিবা এক্সৰে যদি ফটোগ্ৰাফো কৰোঁ, চ' এই ব্লাষ্টবোৰ সাধাৰণতে দেখা যায়। চ' এনিৱে এই ব্লাষ্টবোৰ কণ্টিনিউৱাছলি অলমষ্ট হৈ থাকে, আৰু এই ব্লাষ্টবোৰত খুব শক্তিশালী কিছুমান কণিকা বা ৰেডিয়েশ্যন এমিট হয়, আৰু সিহঁতবোৰ মেক্সিমাম টাইমত আমাৰ পৃথিৱী অভিমুখী হয় না। আজিকালিৰ যিহেতু যুগটো টেকন'লজিৰ যুগ, আমি গোটেইখন আমাৰ ব্ৰডকাষ্টিং হওক, ইণ্টাৰনেট হওক, নেভিগেশ্যন হওক, চববোৰ ৰেডিঅ' কমিউনিকেশ্যনৰ ওপৰত ডিপেণ্ডেণ্ট। গতিকে কিন্তু এই বস্তুবিলাকে, এই যিবোৰ এনাৰ্জেটিক পাৰ্টিকলছবিলাকে যিবোৰ ব্লাষ্টৰ সময়ত সৃষ্টি হয়, ইট কেন এফেক্ট দ্য মেচিনাৰিজ এণ্ড অল দ'জ ইনষ্ট্ৰুমেণ্টছ। আৰু গতিকে আৰু আজিৰ যুগত যদি এনেকুৱা এটা এফেক্ট কৰে, আমি খুব কম সময়তে আমি আমি আগৰ মানে আজি বেক টু লাষ্ট আৰ্লিয়াৰ জেনেৰেশ্যন উই কেন গ' বেক আৰু ভাৰতৰ ধৰণে এখন উন্নয়নশীল দেশৰ কাৰণে ইমান স্পেচ মিছনছ পঠিওৱাটো ইমান পচিবল নহয় চ' ইটছ ভেৰি মাছ ইম্পৰ্টেণ্ট টু আণ্ডাৰষ্টেণ্ড দ্য স্পেচ ৱেডাৰ কি ঘটনাৰ কাৰণে এই ব্লাষ্টবোৰ হৈ থাকে অনবৰতে সেই ব্লাষ্টবোৰৰ উৎসবোৰ জনাটো খুবেই প্ৰয়োজনীয় না এই ব্লাষ্টবিলাকৰ বহুত উৎস আছে তাৰে এটা উৎস আছে এই যিবোৰ ৱেভবোৰ তৰংগবোৰ অনবৰতে দেখিবলৈ মানে সূৰ্যত থাকে এই তৰংগবিলাকে কেতিয়াবা সিহঁতক ট্ৰিগাৰ কৰে তৰংগবোৰ গৈ থাকে সময়ৰ লগে লগে সিহঁতৰ ডেম্পিং বুলি কয় সিহঁতৰ অলপ ইণ্টেনচিটিটো কমি যায় আৰু কমাৰ ফলত যিটো এনাৰ্জি সৃষ্টি হয় সেই এনাৰ্জিটোৱে এই এক্সপ্ল'শ্যনছবোৰ ট্ৰিগাৰ কৰে গতিকে দিছ ইজ ভেৰি ইম্পৰ্টেণ্ট ডেটছ ৱাই টু আণ্ডাৰষ্টেণ্ড দ'জ ৱেভছ সেই ৱেভছবিলাকৰ তৰংগবিলাকৰ প্ৰপাৰ্টি জনাটো খুবেই ইম্পৰ্টেণ্ট যাতে আমি স্পেচ ৱেডাৰৰ যিবোৰ কাৰক লাইক এইবোৰ ছ'লাৰ ফ্লেয়াৰ বা কৰণেল মাছ ইজেকশ্যনছ কিছুমান শব্দ আপোনালোকে ৰিচেণ্টলি বহুতে শুনা পাইছে সম্ভৱ সেইবোৰক যিটো ট্ৰিগাৰ কৰে আৰু সেইটো এটা প্ৰাইম এটা ওৱান অফ দ্য অবজেক্টিভছ তাৰ বাহিৰেও আৰু বহুতখিনি কাৰণ আছে ধৰি লওক সেই ৱেভছবোৰক ষ্টাডি কৰা যাতে আমি এটা ফিজিক্সৰ বা ছায়েন্সৰ এটা আনচল্ভ প্ৰব্লেমছ বুলি কয় এতিয়ালৈকে কৰণেল হিটিং প্ৰব্লেম বুলি সেই হিটিং প্ৰব্লেমটো যদি আমি বুজিব পাৰোঁ যদি সময় আছে অকণমান ক'ব পাৰে হয় জাষ্ট এ চিম্পল থিং মে বি বহুতে জানে আমাৰ যেনেকৈ পৃথিৱীৰ এখন এটমছফিয়াৰ আছে আমি যিখন চকুৰে সাধাৰণতে নেদেখোঁ বাট উই ফিল ইট সূৰ্যৰো এখন এটমছফিয়াৰ আছে কিন্তু আমি খালী চকুৰে নেদেখোঁ হোৱাট উই চি জাষ্ট দ্য ছাৰ্ফেচ অফ দ্য ছান কিন্তু আমি যদি চাওঁ সেই সাধাৰণতে স্পেচলৈ গ'লে বা UV এক্স-ৰে'ত সেই এটমছফিয়াৰখন দেখিবলৈ পোৱা যায় আৰু তাৰ চাৰিটা সাধাৰণতে মুখ্য ভাগত বিভক্ত কৰা হয় ফটোস্ফিয়াৰ ক্ৰমস্ফিয়াৰ ট্ৰেনজিশ্যন ৰিজন কৰোণা নাও সূৰ্যৰ কেন্দ্ৰত আপোনাৰ নিউক্লিয়াৰ ৰিয়েকশ্যন হৈ আছে আমি সকলোৱে জানো তাত এনাৰ্জি সৃষ্টি হৈছে আৰু সেই এনাৰ্জি আমি সকলোৱে পাই আছোঁ আৰু সেই সূৰ্যৰ যিটো নিউক্লিয়াৰ ৰিয়েকশ্যন চলি আছে খুব টেম্পাৰেচাৰ বহুত বেছি মিলিয়ন কেলভিন আৰু আমি যিমান সূৰ্যৰ ছাৰ্ফেচলৈ ওলাই আহি থাকোঁ টেম্পাৰেচাৰটো কমি কমি গৈ থাকে চ' ঠিকেই আছে টেম্পাৰেচাৰ কমি কমি গৈ থাকিব দেন ফটোস্ফিয়াৰ আমি যিটো হালধীয়া ছাৰ্ফেচ পালোঁ তাত অলমষ্ট 6000 কেলভিন হয় তাৰপাছত আৰু অলপ ওপৰলৈ যায় 4800 কেলভিন আৰু অলপ কমিলে বাট দেন ছাডেনলি যিটো ফটোস্ফিয়াৰৰ ওপৰৰ এটা লেয়াৰ ক্ৰমস্ফিয়াৰ বুলি কওঁ তাত লাহে লাহে গৰম হ'ব মানে বাঢ়িবলৈ আৰম্ভ কৰে এৰাউণ্ড 20000 কেলভিন হয় দেন ছাডেনলি ইট ৰিচেছ মিলিয়ন কেলভিন মানে টেম্পাৰেচাৰ ঘপককৈ খুব অদ্ভুত ধৰণে ড্ৰাষ্টিকেলি বাঢ়ি যায় আৰু আমি এতিয়ালৈকে নাজানো এণ্ড দিছ ইজ ছামথিং এগেইনষ্ট দ্য ল অফ ফিজিক্স অৰ এগেইনষ্ট দ্য ল অফ থাৰ্মোডাইনেমিক্স টেম্পাৰেচাৰ ডিষ্টেঞ্চৰ লগে লগে কমিব লাগিছিলে চ' ৱাই ইট হেপেন্স উই ডোণ্ট ন' এণ্ড দিছ ইজ কল্ড কৰ'নেল হিটিং প্ৰব্লেম কাৰণ এই হিটিংটো সূৰ্যৰ যিখন আউটাৰ এটমছফিয়াৰ যাক আমি কৰোণা বুলি কওঁ তাত সাধাৰণতে হোৱা দেখা যায় চ' এই ক্ষেত্ৰত কোৱা যায় যে এই ৱেভছবিলাকেও সাধাৰণতে কৰ'নেল হিটিঙত কণ্ট্ৰিবিউট কৰে আৰু যদি কৰে কিমান শতাংশ কৰে গতিকে সেইখিনি বুজাটো এই মোৰ ষ্টাডিৰ এটা অবজেক্টিভছ হ'ব
ধন্যবাদ ইমান ধুনীয়াকৈ বুজাই দিছে যে আচলতে কি কথাখিনি আচলতে আমি আপ্লুত হৈছোঁ আৰু মই এটা কথা বিশেষ কথা ক'ব খুজিম আজি ইয়াত যে আমি যিদিনা লাইভ টেলিকাষ্ট চাই আছিলোঁ যে চন্দ্ৰযান 3 আদিত্য এলনৰ যেতিয়া ইছৰোৰ কণ্ট্ৰল ৰুমৰ পৰা আমি সেই দৃশ্যবোৰ চাই আমি গৌৰৱ অনুভৱ কৰিছিলোঁ আমাৰ কিমান গৌৰৱ কৰিছিলোঁ আমি সেইদিনা আৰু সেই সময়ত আমাৰ এইসকল ব্যক্তি বিশেষকৈ ডক্টৰ সৃজিত আৰু জন্মেজয় সেইদিনা কণ্ট্ৰল ৰুমত আছিল মই জনাইছোঁ সকলোকে যে আমি যেতিয়া লাইভ টেলিকাষ্ট চাই আছিলোঁ গতিকে তেওঁলোকৰ সেই সময়ৰ এক্সপিৰিয়েঞ্চখিনি আমি আজি তেওঁলোকে শ্বেয়াৰ কৰিব অলপ পিছত আমি সেই কথাও পাতিম আৰু বিশেষকৈ মই ডক্টৰ সৰগ শইকীয়া আপোনাৰ পৰা জানিব খুজিছোঁ যে হোৱাই মিছন লাইক চন্দ্ৰযান 3 অৰ আদিত্য ইজ ইম্পৰ্টেণ্ট ফৰ এ কাণ্ট্ৰি লাইক ইণ্ডিয়া আৰু লগতে মই আৰু এটা প্ৰশ্ন আপোনাক মই সুধিব খুজিছোঁ যে ইছৰো ষ্টিল ট্ৰাইং টু কণ্টেক্ট উইথ চন্দ্ৰযান 3 এই সন্দৰ্ভত আপোনাৰ পৰা মই জানিব খুজিছোঁ কাৰণ লুনাৰ ডেৰ কথা কিছুমান জড়িত হৈ আছে এণ্ড দে ছেড ডেট দে উইল মেক এভৰি এফৰ্ট টু কানেক্ট লেণ্ডাৰ বিক্ৰম এণ্ড ৰোভাৰ প্ৰজ্ঞান হোৱাট ইউ হেভ টু চে এবাউট ডেট
Sure. I'll take the first question. So, why, again, we have all the problems as a country, right? But why do we fly missions like Aditya and Chandrayaan? So let us take Aditya, as Madam has clearly mentioned. When we talk about space weather, it is very important for us to understand very thoroughly because we have probably 40-50 odd satellites, and we are going to have so many more satellites. Now, some of us must be doing trading, right? Like stock trading. HFT, high frequency trading and all these are dependent on satellites, right? Then we use GPS, so very ubiquitous. You take your phone, you use Google Maps. So many of this economic activity, these are economic activity. If enemy wants to cripple India, they just need to cripple, for example, our satellites, right? Our company, I mean, our country will be in a serious problem, and more so for all the countries. So space would be a new domain. As you know now, India also has a aerospace force. So we have a department, it's both a defense and a civilian, space department, which recently opened. Defense Space Agency is there. I think it is coming up. So because our day-to-day economic activity of a country plus at an individual level is dependent, it's very important for us to understand Aditya. Now, having said that, there are already missions flown by NASA and European Space Agency. So why we are doing that? As a country, as we are growing in terms of our ambition, our future plans, we cannot be reliant on any other country. We have to build our own capability, and the capability has to match with government's ambition, right? And that is why missions like Aditya has really, very day-to-day implication in our life. It's very important, and I think it's a money well spent. We may not see the profit or something like that right away, but I'm pretty sure we would soon understand, the implications. Now, but Chandrayaan, space, if you see the historical perspective, space has always been very closely tied to geopolitics, right? If you see the first launch of, the first mission, which is Sputnik, the implication of Sputnik that a country can launch a satellite, the satellite can go into orbit, and then go into orbit, over and over again, means that country has built a technology which is a rocket technology that can deliver weapons. Rocket is nothing but a delivery mechanism, right? So when actually Sputnik was launched, it was a big mess in the US. They thought that Russia is going to drop whatever, right, into their backyard. So, and then Sputnik just released some radio beeps. If you just on YouTube, if you go Sputnik sound, you'll see teet, 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 something like that. And that was a nightmare, and many of the Americans with radio, their radio pods, they actually listened to that and they were very fearful. So that's the geopolitics and the power projection. A country like India, again, we are very ambitious now. We are growing with the current, ruling dispensation and the economic growth. We are set to grow more, and that has to be matched by technology. Now I take the example of companies. You have heard about Boeing, you have heard about Lockheed Martin. How many defense company and space company do we have in India? None. You see the revenue of Boeing, it's $100 billion. 1 billion is 8,200 crore. So it's $100 billion. You can imagine the money we are speaking about. Same Lockheed Martin, $70 billion, right? What are defense company in India, right? It's not L&T. L&T is a conglomerate. Tata, yes, they do defense. There are very few defense company and I say space company that makes $100 million. 100 million. 100 million is 800 crore. So is it fair?
Dr. Sorok, can you explain about the reconnect with...
Sure, yeah. So that was one part, and the second was the reconnect, Chandrayaan. So we know lunar night is about 2 weeks, 14 days. And because lunar night, there is no sun, temperature drops dramatically. So about, minus 230 to minus 250. So to keep the electronics, the batteries, and all the essential items warm for a prolonged period is very difficult. You want to keep anything warm, you need power. Because solar is the only source of power we use. We did not have enough power. Perhaps we did use as a trial, that's what I have learned, something called radioisotope, heat generator. It's not RTG. So these are very small uranium pellets. When it is, and of course it's radiates, so it gives off heat and it keeps the spacecraft warm. So there have been attempts, of course, to revive, the spacecraft, and they have not been successful, but a continuous process is going on. I believe some of our other panel members might know more than me.
Now coming to Janmejoy, Aditya alone has all total 7 payloads. Can you explain more about these payloads and specially about SUIT?
Yeah, sure. So Aditya has 7 payloads, among which two are telescopes. They are called Visible Emission Line Coronagraph, VELC, and Solar Ultraviolet Imaging Telescope, SUIT. So these two telescopes are the ones that will be observing the sun continuously. Like Madam spoke about the corona of the sun, that is, if you have seen a photo of a total solar eclipse, then the corona is the white band of light that kind of shines out of the sun when the moon covers the sun. In fact, the name of this novel coronavirus, it came from the corona of the sun, because coronavirus had these spikes on its surface which makes it look like the corona of the sun. So the solar corona needs to be constantly observed, like she mentioned, because we don't yet know why the corona is getting heated up as much as a million degrees Kelvin, while the surface of the sun is something like 5,000 Kelvin. Kelvin and degrees Celsius are almost similar, so 5,000 Kelvin is around 5,000 degrees Celsius, and million Kelvin is around million degrees Celsius. So that's what VLC will be doing. VLC will be constantly observing the solar corona. It has a machinery to block out the center of the sun and observe only what's happening on the sides. Much like what happens in a total solar eclipse when the moon comes in front of the sun and it blocks out the sunlight, and we can observe the corona of the sun. SUIT, on the other hand, is like a normal solar telescope that will be taking photos of the sun and the sun disk, that is the center of the sun. I mean, the part that we call the sun and not the atmosphere. So together, SUIT will be observing this wavelength band of light between 200 and 400 nanometers. What we observe, our eyes, what we can see, that is from 400 nanometers, which is violet in color, to 700 nanometers, which is red. So that's the complete visible band of light. Other than that, whatever falls below 400 nanometers, we call it ultraviolet, and below that we have X-rays, and below that we have, again, gamma rays. Above 700, we call it infrared. So our TV remotes, they work based on infrared, while these RO UV water filters, they work based on ultraviolet. So how does ultraviolet work? Ultraviolet, what it does is, see, Kent RO UV water filter, UV kills bacteria. So UV is harmful for biota or living organisms, right? And sun releases everything, starting from X-rays all the way up to UV, and starting from X-rays all the way up to infrared. Sun releases everything, radio, everything sun releases. What the Earth does is, Earth has this atmosphere and Earth has ozone layer, so it stops these UV rays from entering the sun, coming from the sun to enter the Earth. It doesn't penetrate, and whatever UV comes, when we go out on a sunny day, we get this thing, skin tanning. And that itself is so, if you have had a skin burn, you will realize that itself is so painful. And that is with just a very tiny, a fraction of the solar UV load that is coming and hitting us. Now imagine if you had the entire UV load coming and hitting us, what would happen on Earth? There is this growing concern about global warming and chlorofluorocarbons and how they are spoiling our ozone layer. And this ozone layer is responsible for stopping this UV light. So as we are monitoring the ozone layer of the Earth, and as we're monitoring global warming on the Earth, it's also necessary to observe the sun in this UV band of light, which causes these things, which actually our ozone layer stops. So you can't just it's kind of like, it's kind of like stopping thieves from entering your house. You can't just keep checking the security of your house. You also need to make sure that people in your society are well educated so that thieves don't enter. It's kind of like that. You also need to understand the thief's mentality. It's the same thing that we are doing. We're observing the sun in that wavelength band to see that whatever amount of light that comes from the sun in this wavelength band, if that is affecting our life on Earth or not. That's why SUIT, again, is very useful. And this wavelength band, there is no other mission on Earth or no other mission in space which is observing this wavelength band continuously. So what SUIT will be doing, since it's at Lagrange 1 point, so there is this common misunderstanding that Lagrange 1 is somewhere between sun and the Earth, so that's the sun and there's the Earth, and Lagrange 1 is somewhere in the middle. I mean, that's probably the photo many people would have seen in Instagram or newspapers. But we are only going 1% closer to the sun. 15 lakh kilometers is, like Srijit sir said, it's 4 times, 5 times the distance of the moon. It's very far away. However, the sun is 150 million kilometers away. We're only going 1.5 million kilometers away. That's just 1% closer to the sun. It doesn't make much difference in terms of amount of heat the spacecraft will be facing or whatever, but it's necessary to go there because from there we can constantly observe the sun without the risk of the satellite falling behind the Earth and getting shadowed by the Earth. So if we continuously observe the solar corona, that's the outermost layer of the sun, that will tell us if any these charged particles are shooting at us or not. And if we constantly observe the sun in UV, that will tell us if any such harmful UV ray or UV light is coming from the sun, or if the intensity of UV is increasing or decreasing. Because it might not seem to you that the sun's brightness changes very much, because today's sun's brightness almost seems like it's the same tomorrow, almost seems like it's the same 10 years later or 20 years later. But the sun's brightness does change.
Yeah, thank you. I will come back to you.
Yeah, sure,
Now
sure.
I have a question to Dr. Srijit. What are the big engineering and scientific achievement of mission, Chandrayaan mission? And would you like to add more on about the reconnect to Chandrayaan 3?
Yeah, so I'll just address the second one first. Because Dr. Saikia already told that this is 14 days night and moon. You all will be knowing that the moon, we have 15 days, our calendar is because of that one bright side and one dark side, right? The Amavasya and Paurnami, I think all of you will be knowing about that. So the night time in moon, when the sunlight passes over, since there is no atmosphere, since Earth has atmosphere, it manages and oceans, it will control our temperature. Since there is no atmosphere, no oceans there, whenever shadow comes, the temperature falls down a lot. It goes to minus 200 degrees Celsius, almost so 0 degrees where ice forms. This goes to almost minus 200 degrees Celsius during night. So over 14 days of night, all the lander and rover would have cooled down to minus 200 range by now. But electronics won't work in that condition. One thing we should remember is all the required test experiments we want to do, we have already done. So the mission is success. This is an additional thing like bonus we are trying. So mission is over. The actual mission, planned mission is completed in first 14 days. We are hoping that after 14 days, again sunrise happens, it will heat the instrument. Once the temperature comes back to 0 degree, after a few days, because sun is daytime for 14 days, during that time, if the temperature, if it heats up the rover and lander, and if the temperature comes back to above 0 degree level, we can switch it on. Actually, there is an automatic command which will switch it on. And it's like a bonus, we can use it for a few more days, maybe another 5-6 days before the night begins again. So we are waiting for that. The day started 2-3 days before. So ISRO is keep on continuing to see whether it is waking up, because we don't know what is the temperature right now. To know the temperature also, it should power on. So once the temperature comes to this level, it might switch on if the electronics survived the nasty night on moon. So we are waiting for that.
Dr. Srijit, at the same time, I would like to know from you that any personal story or challenge you faced during your work with sweet payloads?
Yeah. Okay. One just before that, the technological challenges you all know, it's not easy. Initially, she was saying it's the first time India did the soft landing. It's a huge technological advancement. Even going to L1, India is going for the first time. 3 countries before us have gone, but we are the 4th country to even go there. So engineeringly, technologically, it is a great challenge, and definitely we are on the way to success in both cases.
Okay.
Personal things, of course, last 5-6 years, we all had been spending day and night. So there are a lot of personal instances, especially when we worked during COVID time, when the whole, all of you were having a work from home, what we call, or at home. Since we are doing in the lab work, we cannot work from home. You have to be in the lab. And ISRO was given us some special permission for people to come. So there was a time when the whole thing was locked down. There was news of people in the nearby labs, one by one getting sick, moving to hospital, getting admitted. But many of us had to go to the lab, even then, keep working. It was very, very unique or very haunting time, maybe almost I think 1 month to 2 months. I think that's a never forgettable time, and there was no restaurants, no canteen. You had to cook food and carry your box. It was very special time, I would say, in a way, in the memory way.
Any special story from Zomneja?
For me, every day was special. Yeah. So there are many special stories, funny stories. Rather, I would like to speak about one small thing, that is, we have this thing called a vacuum chamber. That is an instrument where we keep our entire payload or our entire instruments, and we take it to very high vacuum, like space-like vacuum, and then we do these tests. And sometimes it's very tough to it takes a lot of time to suck out all the air, because you need to go to one millionth or one millionth of atmospheric pressure. And in such cases, what happens is, if the pressure is low, then things will start to boil. That is, it will evaporate. That's the whole purpose of using vacuum and going to the space. In space also, the same thing happens. If you have any material like water or any oil or anything, when you expose it to vacuum, it will suddenly evaporate even at room temperature. So just imagine even if there is a fingerprint inside your vacuum chamber, things will evaporate, and that will come and sit on your electronics, on your camera. Things that are cold inside the thing, it will just condense and can contaminate your payload. And since we are working with UV, we need to be very careful on contamination control. So we would work entirely for hours and hours on end inside a clean room. A clean room is a environment where the number of dust particles in air is extremely less. So in normal air over here, per cubic feet of air means approximately in this much air, almost 1 to 10 crore dust particles would be there. In our clean rooms, we maintain it to 50 dust particles, 50, 40, 30, around that range. Now imagine, in that situation, we need to operate our vacuum chambers. We need to make sure that all these tests are done without contaminating our payload. Somehow, by some grace of God or something, one fly entered that lab one day. My God, that fly, it took us one full working day to kill a fly. You know how tough it is to kill a fly? Extremely tough. If you've watched this episode of Breaking Bad, where this Walter White tries to kill one fly in his lab to prevent contamination, Walter White didn't have a clean room. We had a clean room. That freaking fly went through 3 layers of protection, doors, covers, air shafts, everything, and somehow entered. And we were just scared that it might enter our vacuum chamber or some electronics, somewhere it might do something. But thankfully, at the end of the day, at almost 5 or 5:30, I was sitting at the computer. I had almost given up. My lab mate was there. He had almost given up. And those labs are cold, like around 18 degrees Celsius or 19 degrees Celsius. And that fly finally got a little paralyzed or a little dizzy or something. And it just came flying and sat on my computer monitor. I looked at the fly and I just did this. And the fly died. That was the first time I killed a fly.
Very interesting story so far. ডক্টৰ ঐশ্বন্য শৰ্মা, আপুনিও আপোনাৰ পৰা জানিব খুজিম, যিহেতু আপুনি আয়ুকাৰ সৈতে জড়িত হৈ আছিলে সেই সময়ছোৱাত খুব চমুকে, আমি শেষৰ ফালে গৈ আছোঁ আৰু আমি কুৱেশ্যন আনচাৰ্ছ ল'ম এতিয়া, গতিকে খুব চমুকে আপোনাৰ পৰা মই জানিম যে আপোনাৰ এনে কিছু অভিজ্ঞতা কওক, তেখেতসকলে ক'লে আপোনাৰ অভিজ্ঞতা শুনিব পাৰিছোঁ।
মই একচুৱেলি যিটো ডেটাৰ লগত কাম কৰিছিলোঁ, ইনষ্ট্ৰুমেণ্টেশ্যনৰ লগত মই ইমান কাম কৰা নাই। ডেটাৰ লগত কি হয়, আপুনি এতিয়া ধৰি লওক মই যে কৈছোঁ মই এই কামটো কৰিব বিচাৰিছোঁ, তেনেকৈ কিছুমান কাম অলৰেডি কৰি আছিলোঁ, খালি আমাৰ আগতে নিজৰ মিছনৰ ডেটা নহয়, এতিয়া আদিত্য আহিব বাৰু, লঞ্চ হ'ল, নাছাৰ কিছুমান মিছনৰ ডেটা লৈ কাম কৰি আছিলোঁ। চ' কি হয়, আপুনি কিবা এটা কাম কৰিম বুলি ভাবে, মোৰ মেইনলি কাম কৰিম যেতিয়া ভাবোঁ, প্ৰথমতে প্ৰশ্ন যে সেই কামটোৰ কাৰণে উপযোগী কিছুমান ডেটা বিচাৰিব লাগিব, আৰু ডেটাখিনি আপোনাৰ সেই ডেটা বিচাৰোঁতে আপোনাৰ বহুতখিনি সময় যায়, এৰাউণ্ড 1 month মান, বা প্ৰপাৰ ডেটা ছেট পোৱাৰ পাছত সেইখিনি প্ৰচেছ কৰিব লাগে। প্ৰচেছ মেইনলি গোটেই কম্পিউটাৰত কামখিনি কৰা হয়, আৰু তাত কেতিয়াবা সেই ডেটাখিনি প্ৰিপেয়াৰ কৰোঁতে ইমান টেকনিকেল প্ৰব্লেমছ আহে যে কামটো বহুত দূৰৰ কথা, টেকনিকেল প্ৰব্লেম ফেচ কৰোঁতে ইনষ্টলেশ্যনত বহুতখিনি সময় গুচি যায় তাৰপিছত ইনষ্টল হ'ল চব কামত বহিব ভাবিলে নাই এতিয়া চব ঠিক আছে আপুনি কামত বহিব পাৰিব না কামত বহাৰ পাছত দেখা যায় যে ডেটাখিনিত ইমান প্ৰব্লেমছ আছে আপুনি আমাৰ যিটো মোৰ অবজেক্টিভছ আছিলে মই যিটো কাম কৰিম বুলি ভাবিছিলোঁ সেই কামটো কৰিবলৈ মানে অলপ দূৰ গ'লোঁ অলপমান কাম কৰিলোঁ তাৰপিছতে প্ৰব্লেমছখিনি আহি গ'ল চ' ফাইনেলি কি হয় মই যিটো কাম কৰিম বুলি ভাবিছিলোঁ সেইটো কৰা নহয় কি শেষত গৈ অলপ সলনি হৈ গুচি যায় আৰু এই গোটেই বস্তুটোত বহুত সময় লাগে কেতিয়াবা এবছৰ 1.5 বছৰ তেনেকুৱা বহুত সময় লাগি যায় গতিকে কেতিয়াবা আপোনাৰ অলপ ফ্ৰাষ্ট্ৰেশ্যনো আহে কিন্তু তথাপি দিছ ইজ কল হোৱাট ইজ ৰিচাৰ্চ ইট ইজ নট এ নিউ চাৰ্চ আমি একেটা বস্তুতকৈ লাগি থাকিম ফেইলাৰ আহি থাকিব আহোঁতে শেষত গৈ কিন্তু নতুন কিবা এটা ওলাই যায় এণ্ড দিছ ইজ ছামথিং এগেইন আই লাৰ্ণ এবাউট ৰিচাৰ্চ অলছ' চ' ইট ৱাজ ফান অলছ' যে গোটেই এক্সপিৰিয়েঞ্চখিনি
ডক্টৰ হৰক মই আপোনাৰ পৰা শেষত মই জানিম আপোনাৰ পৰা দিছ ইজ লাষ্ট কুৱেশ্যন ফৰ ইউ যে এই যিটো মিছন আদিত্য এল1 হওক বা চন্দ্ৰয়ান 3 এই মিছনৰ পিছত ইণ্ডিয়াৰ পজিশ্যন 1 নম্বৰ আৰু দ্বিতীয়তে বিশ্বৰ বিভিন্ন দেশত আমি বিশেষকৈ আমি বিদেশী ৰাষ্ট্ৰসমূহত আমি দেখিছোঁ যে প্ৰাইভেট মিছন কিছুমান আৰম্ভ হৈছে এই ক্ষেত্ৰত আমাৰ ভাৰতৰ অৱস্থানটো কেনেকুৱা হ'ব বা কি স্কোপ ওলাব মই শেষত আপোনাৰ পৰা জানিব খুজিছোঁ
First question to
about various mission private missions.
Right. So, if we consider ISRO, again, this COVID was a setback, as we all know. I have been in touch with ISRO, so ISRO was literally shut down. So now this is, again, I would say, as long as I am alive, this is the golden era of, space exploration for India. After Chandrayaan, we do have, I think, the Indo-Japanese LUPEX mission, I think around 2026. There is a Shukrayan mission, which is for Venus. We are part of some discussion because one of the best ways to explore Venus is actually using a balloon. Because, Venus atmosphere, even though it's sulfuric acid, but if you go to around 60 kilometers, it's very temperate. Atmosphere pressure, 1 bar, temperature could be very near to the Earth's surface. And being an entrepreneur and having a space company, I've been fortunate to be part of a consortium where we are actually working on a private mission to Venus. It's a
So
mission.
it's a good news for us.
I hope it will work out. So it's a mission being led. You can look it up by a professor at MIT in the US. And she's an expert in exosolar planets. So as you know, one of the objective or one of the instrument on the Chandrayaan mission was actually to look at Earth to see how Earth might look like, if it were part of another star, right? So Venus, NASA and ESA has found out so many exoplanets, and many of them, a major fraction of them are like Venus-like planets. Some are like Uranus kind of planets. So it's very important for us to understand. That is number one. Number two, last year it was in news that Venus might actually have life or some form of life. And so our goal is actually to do that. If we can find life on Venus, of course, that is absolutely one of the biggest mysteries of science, right? Are we alone? Or there could be life in completely different environment that we are not aware of. So I've been fortunate to be part of that. We have initiated some discussion with ISRO. If we can be part of the Shukrayan mission, because ISRO's baseline mission uses only an orbiter. So we are proposing that we send an atmospheric probe, an entry probe with a balloon. So we do have the expertise in balloon. And of course, that also brings me I can slightly go the other side, because this balloon can be used for surveillance. As you know, the Chinese balloon incident early this year, so it's a big balloon that it flew at around, 20 kilometers. So if you have such kind of system, you can actually monitor. So Galwan is a great example, right? We did not have, real-time imagery. Otherwise, we could have seen the Chinese, actions beforehand, and we could have taken preemptive action. Now, in terms of, finally, I'll just end that private participation in India's space industry has always been there. So it is not like it is not there. Walchan Industries, and many other private or public, companies have contributed significantly. But for the first time there, we have a clear policy of very private participation. And there are some companies, ours could be one of them. There are so many other companies we are all we are aware of, be it the rocket launch companies and all. We are contributing, so we are hoping to contribute. In fact, maybe it is slightly in the premature stage, but we are in discussion with the Chief Minister of Assam and his office that we want to put a facility in Assam to build aerospace, defense, and space technology, out of which we might be making a major component for our frontline fighter jets like Su-30, Sukhoi, Tejas Mark 1A, Mark 2, and MiG-29K. So I don't want to spill the beans. If everything goes well, you might hear the news from someone bigger than me.
Thank you very much, thank you very much. আৰু মই শেষত ফাইনেলি ডক্টৰ শ্ৰীজিতৰ পৰা জানিব বিচাৰিছোঁ, I would like to know from him that has the suite instrument started working? I do not know whether it is relevant or not, this question, I do not know, but what do the initial data shows?
Yeah, so in Aditya L1, only one instrument is switched on, which is not suit, which is called aspects, which is basically study the particles, high energy particles on the way. Suit will be switched on, as per the plan it will be switched on after reaching L1 only, but there are some discussions happening whether we should switch on early. There are some requirement of satellite stability etc. for switching on Suit and Aditya 1. So as per the current plan, we will be switching on only in January after we reach L1, but there are some discussion if whether we can switch on. Right now only one instrument is switched on, which is aspects. That is showing quite good data.
Thank you. আৰু শেষত my last question to জন্মেজয়, আৰু শেষত মই এটা কথা ক'ব বিচাৰিম যে জন্মেজয় তেজপুৰ ইউনিভাৰ্চিটি যেহেতু তেখেতে গৱেষণা কৰি আছে আৰু ইছৰোত আমাৰ অসমৰ পৰা বহু বিজ্ঞানীয়ে তাত কাম কৰি আছে, আৰু এতিয়া তাত এনেকুৱা পৰিৱেশ হৈছে, মই এইটো ক'বলৈ ভাল পাম ইয়াতে যে অসমীয়া বুজি পোৱা হৈছে, ডক্টৰ শ্ৰীজিত তেখেত অসমীয়া বুজি পোৱা হৈ গৈছে, ভাল খবৰ আমাৰ কাৰণে যে তাত আমাৰ ইমান বিজ্ঞানী আছে তাত, মই যদি অসমীয়াটো সুধিলোহেঁতেন তেওঁ অলপ বুজি পালেহেঁতেন, মোক কৈছে চোৰ আগত। গতিকে আমাৰ বাবে গৌৰৱৰ বিষয় যে আমাৰ অসমৰ ইমান এটা আমাৰ ডাঙৰ এচিভমেণ্ট যে চন্দ্ৰয়ান 3, আদিত্য L1 মিছন, এই গোটেইকেইটা মিছনত আমাৰ অসমৰ বহুত বিজ্ঞানী তাত জড়িত হৈ আছে, আৰু আমি তেখেতসকলক ইয়াৰ পৰা চেলুট জনাইছোঁ যে আৰু তেওঁলোকে ভালদৰে কাম কৰি যাওক, আৰু অসমৰ পৰা তেওঁলোকক দেখি আৰু কিছু বিজ্ঞানী ওলাওক, আমি সেই আশা কৰিম এই মঞ্চখনৰ পৰা। আৰু জন্মেজয় চৰকাৰে অসমীয়া বুজি পায়, গতিকে শেষত মই তেখেতক অসমীয়াতে প্ৰশ্ন এটা কৰিম। জন্মেজয়, কেনেকুৱা লাগিল আহি পেলাই আজি এই অনুষ্ঠানলৈ? হাউ ডু ইউ ফিল?
মই অসমীয়া ক'ব পাৰোঁ, বুজিব পাৰোঁ, বাট ভালকৈ ক'ব নোৱাৰোঁ। So I'll choose speaking in English. It was a really great experience being here. Truly, I mean, I'm very honored to be here, and I don't know. I'm in loss of words. Yeah. So finally, it's just that I would like to say that I am me as a student. I have studied in school, but I was never a very good student in academics. In college, I somehow managed to get first division. 60% is first division. I got 60.5. Yeah. So that's the thing. Then I joined masters at Tezpur University. Then I joined PhD at Tezpur University. Eventually, I got associated with I.U.c and ISRO. And towards this mission, in which the work that I have been doing is more of engineering work and more of mechanical work than of sitting at a computer and running codes or running calculations. So for the students and for the parents, if your children are opening refrigerators or switchboards, or trying to spoil your TV or something like that, or doing things in their computer, opening it and then taking out these chips, trying to figure out how to fix those things, then you might have to scold them at some stage, but I would suggest that you also encourage them and let them go that way, because that's the same thing my parents did for me, and they have always encouraged me. I remember I had opened a Walkman once, and I was in school, maybe class 2 or 3, class 3 probably. I opened the Walkman and then I put the back cover and I put one screw and the other holes were not matching. I couldn't put the screws back. I took it to my dad. He's very much into amateur astronomy and science popularization. He makes electronics models now. So I asked him that I opened it, but I can't put it back. Normally a guardian would, would scold the child because they have opened an expensive equipment. My father said, was it put correctly when you opened it? I said, yeah. I said, if it was put correctly, then there is a way to put it correctly. It can't be that previously it was put and now you can't put it back. So then he taught me how to put the screws properly on a piece of plastic. And these things actually matter when we are putting these expensive glass objects on the telescopes. If you put one screw very tightly, then the other screw won't go in. These things don't come in textbooks. You need to learn them from experience.
Nanda,
Thank you.
That is all.
can I add something in 10 seconds? So I stay in Bengaluru. It's a very fresh example, 1 day old, okay? It's a very new apartment, 20 floors, 5 towers. And of course, all the apartments nowadays have a WhatsApp group, right? And one parent, I'm not naming anyone, so I'm not bad-mouthing anyone. So one parent, some random parent, he complained that there are so many paper airplanes being thrown from some one floors. And there are so many, one guy is just throwing over and over again. So he said, hey, his intent was okay. He said that, okay, parents need to take care, like that. It's littering because it's a very manicured Japanese garden with flowing waters and whatnot. It's really a good apartment. And I wrote back, and I'm telling everyone, both parents and kids, don't stop your kids from flying airplanes. That is what the spark
So
is.
nice of it.
Let it litter. There's housekeeping staff who will take care of that, or we will clean it up, because that is how, your imagination, takes shape. So that's how.
Thank you very much, Sorok Soikia. আৰু এতিয়া আমি শেষৰ ফালে গৈ আছো। আমি এতিয়া মিনালদা আছে, মিনালদাই যিখিনি আমাৰ কোৱেশ্চন আনসাৰ সেইখিনি কেৰি কৰিব।
Thank you very much. I recently had been to Janmaji's alma mater. He has a bad reputation in that university. You know why? He did not allow many people to sleep at night. I think you put up the astronomy club's new telescope also, and you kept on watching it whole night. And then I said, Janmaji is one guy. Another guy I met this time, he was also like that. I forgot his name. Very lean, thin man. Probably one day he will also be like you. Same man. All those are all the students of the great man, and you should name him.
Dr. Bodua. Dr. Bodua, yes.
He is one of the men. He is
Yes.
encouraging every one of them. That's what. Anyway, thank you very much. Actually, my mobile is now not working. So, thanks to technology. Now, this is the best session, and technology is failed. So, I don't have the questions now to put many things. So, I want to just raise your hand. Whoever asks the question, I will be there. First, no lady, I will not give you a chance because I already gave you 2. I will go to the youngsters who have not asked questions. This is one of the finest things. I can't believe in this. That in Assamese television channel and Assamese media network is talking about so beautiful thing. Each of them are always give them a big hand. Lady, I will give you a last chance if I get thing. Anybody who has, yes, sir. And any more? 2. Then, no, I'll give you a chance after last. These 2 I'll keep in reserve. Anything? Any more hands? 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it all? Thank you. First you. I said 1, 2, another someone, 3.
Hi, yes. My name's Ayush, and I'm a first-year student from Hansraj University, Hansraj College, and I'm studying chemistry right now. And so, but I also have an interest in space exploration and all that. So my question is, throughout the process of the launch of Chandrayaan 3 and Aditya L1, have there been fields or certain areas where chemists have worked together with people involved in astrophysics or physics in general, for research purposes? And if so, in future space exploration projects, will there be more opportunities for chemists to work together with astrophysicists?
Or you can answer it.
Yeah, of course, I personally know chemistry people who hardcore chemists working in ISRO. There are a lot of application of chemistry in ISRO, starting from the fuel. You know, it's most critical thing for every mission is the fuel, right? The right fuel, right mix of fuel, which is a better fuel to use for the motion. Once this Chandrayaan, you all would have seen the live video, the soft landing. How they do soft landing is using firing the fuels, right? So there is a lot of research happening in that and a lot of chemistry people working in that. Especially there is a full department, there's a center in Valiamala and Mahendragiri called LPSC, Liquid Propulsion System Center, which do a lot of research in these activities. There is also a lot of research happening regarding the coating, the paint to be used, because the paint has to be thermally resistant. There is a lot of research happening on how to use inorganic material. For example, in our case, ultraviolet react with organic material. So they want, since we are making an ultraviolet telescope, we want inorganic paints. And it should be good paint, black paint. So there is a lot of research happened on which is the best inorganic paint. So as a chemistry, I would say if you are interested in space, there is a lot of applications in developing this instrument. Of course, you know, Chandrayaan, you go, there is, people talk about chemistry of the moon, right? The moon soil, whether how much magnesium is there, how much sulfur is there. The major study happening is actually chemistry of the moon. So both ways, if you are interested in astrochemistry or the chemistry of the planets, there is a lot of opportunities there. If you are interested in technology, basically developing satellite and such things, even there is a lot of application for chemistry and chemical engineers.
Thank you, sir. I have a young boy just next to him. Yeah. And lady, you should be ready for the next one. Then
Hello.
I go to the seniors.
Hello, my name is Bornil Meni. I am a student of Hindu College. I will take the liberty to ask two short questions. First question is, I am a student of biology. So what avenues are there for a biologist or a biotechnologist to join the space research industry? And the second one is regarding my state, Assam. If you have seen like the rest of the world and rest of India, so what pushes do Assam need to make in order to propel itself as a front runner state in this field of science and technology?
There are two parts. First part, I think I will give it to you. Second part, any three of you can go. And at least two of you. Biology part, second part, definitely you two can handle it.
I can answer the biology.
Yeah, you can give the answer to the biology part and ask Dr. Sarag for the second part.
Okay. So I can connect to you because my favorite subject was biology. I got the least in physics actually in my class 12. I got really well I was good at biology, but I wanted to come from biology to astrophysics, so I studied that part, how to do that. First thing is life support. Like he mentioned about the Gaganyaan mission, there is a lot of scope in life support systems that need to be made for astronauts. There is a lot of scope in food technology that need to be made for astronauts for defense purposes also. And if you want to speak about the higher scale, that is on life support systems in other planets. Studying the atmosphere of exoplanets or studying the atmosphere of other moons of Jupiter and Saturn to see if they support life or not. So there is scope for biology, although not as much that is there, direct scope you can see for chemistry, but astrobiology is a subject and there are many places where they do these courses. I myself have done a astrobiology course from University of Edinburgh. And you too can look up for such courses and you can do a course. So, yeah.
Sure. I will take the liberty to answer both the question. The first question more briefly. I would recommend both of you who have asked questions, you can please sit down, both chemistry and biology. If you see the qualification of NASA astronauts till date, you will see doctors, geologists, biologists, chemists, everyone. So I think there is a misunderstanding, particularly in India, where we are a nascent, country in terms of space exploration, that only an aerospace engineer can do it. We have room for every one of you, everyone. In fact, Even liberal arts are now used, for social media. If you are in, influencer, that kind of thing is also there. I'm not recommending that you do that. So there is room for everyone. Briefly, it is slightly related to what we have done. I'm not a chemist or a biologist, but for the Venus mission at MIT, our team, we have been doing some very fundamental, tests in terms of reactions where in a sulfuric acid base, we have put double helix, right? So our DNA, and glad to share that there are some stable complex molecules which still survive in sulfuric acid base. So that gives you a very new paradigm of, that life need not need a water base to survive, right? So there could be complex life in completely different, solution, number one. Number two, in terms of, Assam, we are far away. But then when we are far away, we're behind, and there's a lot of opportunities, for us to do. So it is really upon us. The first thing we need to do is that we don't have a complete ecosystem for engineering, entities to come up. For example, you go to Bangalore, why people flock to Bangalore is because you have the skilled manpower as well as the supporting industry to do that. I want to build a satellite, very likely I'll go to Bangalore or Hyderabad or, those are not even Mumbai, not even Noida, for example. Ahmedabad to some extent, right? So we don't have a complete ecosystem. That is one. Number two, I think the first step we need to do, and maybe Pratidin group can help us, is, education. So the first step we need to do is, enhance space education, infuse space education in all the colleges we have. And starting from even nurseries, or lower primary, where I think some of the works are being done in terms of, encouraging kids, to take up astronomy, or even looking up a telescope. In fact, I can tell you, I was born in Lakhimpur. I did my 11-12 in Srimanta Sankar Academy, and I never, probably people know where I come from in terms of school where I studied. There was a microscope, and I had to peer through the window to see the microscope, and I was never able to use during my school. And I don't know why they even kept the microscope in the school, right? And then also we were, economically not well off, so we were not able to afford even a telescope. So the first time I saw, it's in planetarium, there's a person called Babulda, if you have visited.
Babulda is a mentor for all of us.
Yes. So he's the person who, with whom, he was very helpful, and I saw Saturn for the first time using a telescope, and that changed my life forever.
Thank you.
Last part, yes, Assam does not have an ecosystem, so can we still do something? Is what personally I am trying to do, is that can we build a defense and a space hardware for which we don't need an elaborate ecosystem? I think we have found one, and that is what we have proposed to the state government, and I hope to have some good news in the next month or so.
Thank you. Lady in front of me, that's very nice. And then, yeah.
Good evening. My regards to all the panel members. My first question is to specifically for Parag sir. Sir, I wanted to know, because my area of interest is tourism, so I was wondering how active is space tourism? That's what I was wondering. And my second question is open for all the panel members. I would like to know, since climate change is a very hot debate, so I would like to know the role of satellites, in understanding climate change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall I answer?
Parag is for you first, take the question.
Space tourism, I didn't catch your name, but good news. Our ISRO chairman recently announced that India is getting into space tourism. I'm pretty sure ISRO will team up with a private industry. In fact, I met Dr. Somnath last year. He in fact shared with me. I can tell you that. So what ISRO is doing is ISRO is building a rocket that is a test vehicle, right? So we need to test so many systems before we fly. So there is a rocket system that can land like how SpaceX does. If you know, SpaceX rocket lands vertically, right? People never thought we can do it. They do it, they now do it very routinely. So ISRO is building such a vehicle that can be used for a variety of purposes. One of the purposes is to actually have a capsule on top of that, and then let people, and shoot people up to, some altitude, could be 80 or 100 kilometer. And then people will feel weightlessness if you do a parabolic flight. So when you are from the peak, you come down, you encounter weightlessness. because of the free fall, right? It's not gravity does not disappear. It's because of the free fall you feel weightlessness, and that might start. Now, if I'll just quote one example, Richard Branson's venture is there. There's so many companies like even Jeff Bezos, Blue Origins, they're doing it. One ticket is being sold for 800 and so in India we call it 8 lakh, 8 lakhs rupees. So it's $8 lakh. So 86, it's 5 CR. So that is the price people are willing to pay, and I think they have sold about some 1 lakh or more tickets already when they are flying only a few. So there's an immense potential there. In India it will be slow, but if you're interested, I think you can reach up to the ISRO PR or the ISRO chairman for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to Nayan Pratim Kumar.
ধন্যবাদ মৃণাল দা। আৰু শেষত আমি সকলোকে ধন্যবাদ জ্ঞাপন কৰিব খুজিছোঁ যে আমাৰ এই যি দুদিনীয়া এই কনক্লেভ অনুষ্ঠান আছিলে, এই অনুষ্ঠানলৈ আপোনালোক আহিলে আৰু আহি আমাৰ এই অনুষ্ঠানৰ সৌষ্ঠৱ বৃদ্ধি কৰিলে, তাৰ বাবে আমি সকলোলৈকে আমি ধন্যবাদ জ্ঞাপন কৰিছোঁ। আমি যেতিয়া এইবাৰ এই যি ছেকেণ্ড এডিশ্যন অফ দ্য কনক্লেভ 2023 যেতিয়া আমি প্লেনিং কৰি আছিলোঁ, তেতিয়া বিভিন্ন ধৰণৰ ছাবজেক্টছ বিষয়বস্তু আমাৰ সন্মুখলৈ আহিছিলে, আৰু তেতিয়া আমাৰ ডাইৰেক্টৰ বিশেষকৈ স্মিতাক্ষী বি গোস্বামী মোক কৈছিলে যে নহয়, আমি সব ছাবজেক্টেই ল'ম, কিন্তু এটা ছাবজেক্ট ল'বই লাগিব, সেয়া হৈছে বিজ্ঞানক জনপ্ৰিয় কৰাৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত আমি প্ৰতিদিন টাইমে এটা গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ ভূমিকা ল'ব খুজিছোঁ। আৰু সেইবাবে আমি এইবাৰ যিহেতু চন্দ্ৰযান 3 আৰু আদিত্য এল1 মিছন লঞ্চ হৈ গ'ল ছাকচেছফুলি, দক্ষিণ পোলত নামিছে, এটা সফল এটা অৱতৰণ হৈছে। প্ৰথমবাৰৰ বাবে দক্ষিণ পোল চাউথ পোলত এই ধৰণৰ মিছন সম্ভৱ হৈছে। ভাৰতৰ বাবে ইয়াতকৈ ডাঙৰ কথা একো হ'ব নোৱাৰে। আৰু আমাৰ যদি এই কনক্লেভত যদি এই বিষয়টো নাথাকে, কিবা যেন এটা আধৰুৱা হৈ থাকিব, সেই কথাটো কৈছিলে, আৰু সেইবাবে আমি এখেতসকলক মাতি আনিছোঁ। আৰু মই আকৌ এবাৰ আই উড লাইক টু গিভ মেনি থেংকছ টু ডক্টৰ সৃজিত, ডক্টৰ ঐশ্বন্য শৰ্মা, ডক্টৰ হৰক শইকীয়া আৰু জন্মজয় চৰকাৰ। Thank you very much for coming here and for accepting our invitation. Once again, thank you very much.